Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers as we start the beginning of the last couple of weeks of the legislative session. State Senator Dallas Harris joins us here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. Big R in Sparks is located on Bering Boulevard next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. It's a 50,000 square foot hardware store and a whole lot more. It's your spring headquarters with lawn and garden supplies, power equipment, and outdoor living. Big R on Bering Boulevard in Sparks next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. Big R, hardware and a whole lot more.
Carson Valley Inn, it's your place for the good times. Carson Valley Inn.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2023 legislative session is brought to you by Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. The Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, your RTC, our community. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. And by Nevada Builders Alliance, building a better Nevada.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program here in Carson City, State Senator Dallas Harris, Democrat of District 11. Only a couple of more weeks to go here.
That's right. Looking forward to the race to the finish line.
Yeah, hopefully the finish line. It's, always an interesting time because there are those that think for 3.5 months nothing really goes on, and then in the last 2 weeks it all gets done. Is that really the way it happens?
Absolutely not. I can tell you I have been doing a lot for the last 3.5 months, especially in the first half, really preparing my bills, having those stakeholder discussions, nailing down the language for the policy choices I'd like to present to the legislature. I've been working really hard, so I don't think it's quite the case that we're just starting to work now.
It was interesting watching the career of State Senator Bill Raggio over the years. Of course, longtime majority leader. But Nicole Cannizzaro upped him on one thing by having a baby at this point in the session. Yeah. You never had a baby at any point in the session.
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations to her.
Absolutely.
And it's wonderful the baby is healthy, she is healthy, so that's all good. But how does this affect things at the end of the session?
Well, if any of you are familiar with our majority leader, I think you'll know the answer is it's not going to affect us at all, right? The train's going to keep moving. We're all on track. The majority leader will be back in record speed, probably quicker than I'd even suggest that she come back. Wish she could have some time to just not worry about us for a little bit, but that's not in her nature. She's going to be back doing her job. She's doing her job now, including negotiating with the governor right up until delivery. We all know what our direction is, and we're going to keep the train going.
All right, so let's talk about some of the issues here.
Yeah.
What in the world is going on with the A's and their stadium deal? Because it was just so bizarre that they had signed a deal with Station Casinos for the Wild West property. That looked as though it was going to be terrific. Then the Culinary Union jumped in with their objections to station casinos. That's been going on forever. All of a sudden, the whole thing shifts to the Tropicana site, where Bally's, the actual company called Bally's, has ownership. They're saying, okay, we're going to put the stadium there. We're going to knock down the Tropicana. Employees start freaking out because they think it's going to happen overnight. What can you make of this mess to help us understand where all this is vis-a-vis the legislature?
Yeah, so I wasn't around when we did the Raiders deal, but it's my understanding that that site moved a time or two, and so it's not completely unusual for the idea to kind of not be in full formation and sites jump around when we consider these types of public financing for sports stadiums. With that said, our legislature has a very tight deadline by which we're going to have to consider any piece of legislation, and I have not seen a bill come before us quite yet. So we're running out of time in this regular session to do anything.
One of the things that's come up is that Clark County is concerned that they could end up holding the bag for this money if the deal goes through, because they did have to dip into funds for the Allegiant Stadium during COVID. Do you think that this is going to hold things up here? And also there's antipathy towards the A's from a lot of different areas.
Well, I think that actually, as with any piece of legislation, really, all of the details have to be ironed out. All the stakeholders have to be on board. And in this case, Clark County is a very big stakeholder. You've got to make folks comfortable with whatever you're proposing, or things just don't happen.
One of the other things, we did a poll that's coming out this week, and one of the results from the poll was that people who filled in the poll said that they would prefer an expansion team rather than the A's. How do you think that might play into things?
Well, we'll see if we get the A's. If we get the A's, we're not going to get an expansion team. If the A's don't come, maybe an expansion team looks more likely. I don't know if I particularly have a preference. I know we've got the Knights. They were an expansion team, done a great job, but we also have the Las Vegas Aces, world champions, by the way, that were not an expansion team. And so I have no doubt that Las Vegas can make any sports team work a success. We are the entertainment sports capital of the world these days. So I don't know if that's quite the shaking point, but that doesn't mean that the A's are the team to bring to Las Vegas. We'll just have to see how that shakes out.
Okay, can it be done in these last couple of weeks? I mean, you know, you work with the lobbyists who are working on this.
Anything can be done in the last couple of weeks. I'm sure you've been around long
well,
enough
that's
to
true.
know,
Yes.
right? Things can happen, and it's not as if we haven't had the discussions and things haven't been mulled over, right? What the deal might look like. We've been talking about that for quite some time, and so if details can get nailed down in time to have a bill introduced and move through both houses, anything can happen.
Is it really important that the culinary is now on board?
Absolutely. I think culinary is an important stakeholder in this process, and we especially care a lot about the culinary and want to make sure that that their needs are met in this process, because they represent quite a few of the really important workers in that proposed area.
Senator Lang has obviously been working on this film credit deal for a long time, but it only became public in the last couple of weeks. Tell us your thoughts on this at this point, and whether, again, this, you know, because we've had film credits in the past and it didn't seem to really go anywhere. What do you think is the difference this time around?
Yeah, well, one big difference is we've got our Assistant Majority Leader carrying it this time. They've put a lot of weight behind it. My initial thoughts were a little bit of sticker shock. It's a pretty expensive bill that we're looking at. I think there might need to be some tweaks to whether these credits are refundable or not, and some tweaks around the edges. But I am all for bringing the film industry to Las Vegas in a major way if that's something that we can actually do. I don't know if we'll ever be able to compete with old school Hollywood, but we sure will put up our best fight.
Jeremy Renner, the actor, said don't forget about Northern Nevada in this. Is there any inclusion at this point for Northern Nevada?
Well, I'm not involved in the negotiations on the bill. That is the Assistant Majority Leader's bill, and she's going to be the one to make those types of decisions. We've got beautiful landscape here up north, of course. So I don't see why we wouldn't want to make a few movies up here as well. But again, that'll be up to Sandra Lang and her negotiations what she settles on and what the industry thinks would be best for them.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with much more with Senator Harris after this time out.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
It's the Lucky Lexus Cash and Free Play giveaways at Tamarack. Weekly Cash and Free Play winners plus a $20,000 cash winner guarantee. And drive home a brand new Lexus NX30 or walk away with $42,500 in cash. It's a good time to win at Tamarack Casino.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City. We continue our conversation with State Senator Dallas Harris of District 11 in Las Vegas. What of the bills that have gone away are you most irritated about?
Well, I can say I'm very disappointed that the governor vetoed SB 171, which was my bill that would not allow people who've been convicted of hate crimes to possess firearms for 10 years. And if you've been convicted of a violent hate crime, not be able to possess a gun in perpetuity. I thought that was some common sense gun violence prevention that we could get into place now. And I was really disappointed to see that he just kind of struck it out without even, it seems to me, giving it much consideration, because he did it within a day or so of it hitting his desk.
One of the things that came out, I think, was from Steve Sebelius over the last week, was that leadership has been meeting with the governor for breakfast every week. So was this a surprise to you that the veto was going to come, or were there discussions on making it palatable, or is it just a Republican, we're in favor of the Second Amendment, bar none?
Yeah, well, those aren't discussions that I was a part of course, but it was a surprise to me. I had no idea that the veto was going to happen. In fact, the press conference that we did really was to encourage him to consider signing those 3 pieces of legislation, the one bill I brought into by Majority Leader Howdiggy, and we had to completely flip the script after we found out moments before we were going to do the press conference that he had already made the decision to veto them.
So few bills have actually been signed at this point in time. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I was interested to see that stat come out. We're working at our normal pace. I would consider there's lots of bills to get done, and we're going to send them on over as we send them over. I hope we're giving him lots of time to figure out what it is that he wants to sign or not sign. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, things are going to trickle over as they trickle over. The legislative process works in mysterious ways. But
it's a living, breathing thing.
That's right. But I know that I have, I don't know, about 18 bills. Most of them are still alive and are in their respective places in the process, and I expect that they'll be sent over to the governor in due time.
Okay, so which are the most, give us 2 or 3 examples of the most important of those 18 bills.
Sure. So I've got the auto IRA bill, that's SB 305, which is a bill that would ensure that any person, regardless of whether their employer offers it or not, would have an opportunity to save directly from their paycheck. We know that if they don't have that chance, it's much less likely that they're going to save. We're going to face a retirement crisis real soon here if we don't encourage people to get a little bit of savings in their pocket. I also have SB 368, which is a bill that would allow folks to redact racially restrictive covenants in their home documents moving forward. That is an effort I think that is well worthwhile. That's 2 out of the 18, but all of my children are special to me.
Let's go back to the IRA thing for a moment, because I've said for a long time on this program that we are heading for a major crisis in this country, because even for the people who have done the right things, they've been saving all their working lives to accumulate a nest egg for retirement, with 0% interest rates, they have been getting no return on their money. And so if they're in retirement, they're on a fixed income, and there's no benefit to what they've done. The interest rates have gone up, but not to a crazy level. I mean, I know that it's affecting the housing market, but a 5% interest rate or a 6% interest rate is not killer when you look back 30 years and go, well, interest rates were 12, 13, 14, 15%. So I agree with you. I think that we're heading for a terrible crisis as inflation continues, and we're going to see more and more people getting hurt by the lack of an income when you're on a fixed income.
Yeah, and the cost of things like housing and medical care are on the rise. And so you're right, just a regular old trying to keep up with inflation isn't going to do it for most folks, even if they just stack their money away, right? We got to encourage people, don't put your money away under your mattress or in a savings account that's going to get you 3% interest. In America, anyway, the stock market is the largest driver of wealth, as long as you're not gambling and playing the stock by stock game, right? We know that time in the market is much more important than timing the market. And so when it comes to especially our younger folks, if we can get them invested responsibly now, 30 years from now, they're going to be well off, much better off than they would be if they hadn't started saving.
But for the seniors, it's not a place, because it's a casino. When you're 60, 70 years old,
Right.
you don't have that 30 years necessarily.
That's right.
You know, hopefully you do, but the likelihood is you don't have time for that to turn around.
Yeah, we've got to make sure we're bringing government resources to assist our seniors. That's often an area where we legislate and focus on them, right? We've got a piece of legislation right now sponsored by Senator Orenshaw that would ensure if you are a senior or a veteran who's in a mobile home park, we're going to cap the percent that your rent can be increased, right? So we need lots of government assistance for those folks, and we often do focus on that population. I think the auto IRA is to ensure that we don't have too many people who end up in the future in that same circumstance.
All right, let's take another break, and we'll be back with Senator Harris after this timeout.
Remember 2010 in northern Nevada, 13 to 14% unemployment, thousands of homes in foreclosure, Nevada's casinos closing? Families in the Reno-Sparks area were hurting. Many were losing everything. Then Story County launched a game changer for our region, a public-private industrial partnership, streamlined permitting, slashed bureaucracy, attracting Fortune 500 companies that made Nevada their home. Story County generated a river of cash to area communities. Economic studies by the state and others for the Gigafactory consistently show positive economic benefits for our region. $4 billion in local wages, $17 billion in consumer spending and economic activity, over $100 million in taxes to Washoe, Story, Reno, Sparks, and Nevada, just for the Gigafactory alone. Story County, improving northern Nevada one industry at a time.
Located in the heart of Carson City, the Bank Saloon is a historic watering hole with a modern feel. With a variety of classic cocktails featuring Nevada spirits, space for private events, conferences, and an incredible atmosphere, the Bank Saloon offers a great location to work and play. Come visit us. Located at the corner of 5th and Carson, we'll save you a drink.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with State Senator Dallas Harris. So, interesting times. You've got $2 billion initially to go towards education, another $250 million thrown in there. And all of a sudden, you have the Clark County Education Association saying, fire the superintendent of the Clark County, of Clark County. Does that not concern you that we're about to hand a huge chunk of money to the school system? And I'm not talking about teachers' raises. I'm talking about to the system when the teachers themselves and their union are so concerned about the superintendent.
Yeah, well, let me first start outlining why we have $2 billion. It's not necessarily that it materialized out of nowhere and all of a sudden was guaranteed to go to education. That's actually because of the hard work that we did in 2019 to reform the funding formula. And because that work happened, we now know there is a guaranteed $2 billion extra dollars going to education. This was not some decision that the governor made or even a decision that this legislature made. It is the groundwork that was put in place by Senator Woodhouse at the time and Senator Mo Dennis to reform the way that our education formula works. And it is now paying off, right? So let me just want to lay the ground on that first. When it comes to Superintendent Jara, he clearly has been around for some time now, and there's been quite a few bits of fits and starts, I think is a good way to put it, with his tenure at Clark County. I think I recently saw that he is looking for another job, and
he actually turned that down apparently, but yes, he was looking at another superintendent job and then decided to stay in Clark County, which is kind of scary too.
I'm going to allow the Board of Trustees to do their thing. Hiring and firing superintendents is not something that the state legislature is generally involved in. And so we're going to send the money down because that's what our schools need. And it'll be up to Clark County to decide who is best to lead their school board in that school district.
So in your own mind, do you divide the money between pay raises for teachers, which I think a hard time arguing about that, and achievement?
Well, couple of things there, right? So not every dollar that we send is bargainable for teachers' raises. And so that's why we've kind of set up that structure with the extra $250 million to incentivize school districts to actually offer some teacher incentives. I don't think that the two are completely separate, right? If you pay teachers well, you might get a bump in student achievement, and we don't have to look at them as competing propositions. But I've recently seen some numbers coming out of Clark County when it comes to student achievement, especially when it comes to the disparities between minority students and others that concern me. We clearly need to do a lot of work in that area. And I think that that's a focus that all of our school districts are going to be focusing on because we can't leave our children behind.
You know, it's so bizarre that even though we've been in the computer technology era for a long time now, that we were totally unprepared for COVID. And I'm not just talking about Nevada, I'm talking about the whole country. That, you know, kids lost a couple of years, no matter which way you slice it.
Yeah. I don't think that government is great at being prospective. Prior to COVID, I could have told you that children were doing their homework outside of McDonald's. That was a very real problem. Children were going to the library trying to get internet services. It just wasn't in our face in the same way that forced us to do something about it until COVID happened. Hopefully this is a lesson learned, right? We don't want to wait for some massive pandemic to actually push us in the right policy direction. But I will say I've already seen kind of a slowdown in the incentive to ensure that we've got broadband everywhere. We need to make sure that our urban areas are served better with the digital divide. We need to make sure that our rural areas are served better. Telehealth in the rural areas has been a real problem for a very long time. And again, COVID exacerbated that, but it's still a problem that we have to solve. We need to get broadband everywhere in this country. It's an essential service at this point.
Agreed. And I must say that both of our senators appear to be, our U.S. senators appear to be working on this.
That's right.
We got about 30 seconds here.
Okay.
Two of the Lombardo bills, election reforms, criminal justice. Are they going anywhere? You're in judiciary.
I am, but I do not chair either one of those committees, fortunately, so that decision's not going to be up to me. I think that there are things in each one of those bills that have a chance, and I think that there are things in each one of those bills that are absolutely a no-go. Those are conversations that are going to have to continue to be had.
It's going to be a very interesting next couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Do you think you're going to be spending more of June in Carson City?
I sure hope not. It's our job.
Lovely as it is.
That's right. Hey, it's our job to get this done in 120 days, and that's what I'm aiming for.
I always thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate you being here.
Always a pleasure, Sam.
Thank you. And we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Renee Summerhour, digital news anchor here at 7 at 7. Watch our streaming nonstop newscast immediately with your mobile phone. 7 at 7 is the new way for you to get every bit of local news you need in just 7 minutes. Breaking news, local neighborhood news, weather, and sports are just a click away. Reporters bring you all of what's happening in the Valley. From Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and more. Get every bit of local news you need from the RJ and LVRJ.com.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2023 legislative session is brought to you by Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. The Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, your RTC, our community. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. And by Nevada Builders Alliance, building a better Nevada.
Our thanks to the Bank Saloon in Carson City and the Builders Alliance for their help with our coverage of the 2023 legislative session. We'll see you on the next broadcast.